Okay, so welcome to Eat, Move, Think, the show about optimal wellness brought to you by Medcan.
Wow. Do it again.
Oh, I was practicing. Okay, ready?
Welcome to Eat, Move, Think,
the show about
optimal wellness
brought to you by
Medcan.
Yeah, this is extremely good. Thank you.
Jazz, you were at the National Ballet of Canada recently. How did that go?
It was amazing. I was very excited to be there. They are about to start their new season. It starts in November. And so you could just feel the excitement and the hustle and bustle. Like people are really gearing up to get on stage and people are excited about it.
I'm interested in dancer wellness, actually, because, these are people who performance and optimal performance is really important. They want to be excellent on stage. Mm-hmm. And so it's a lot like, I think, a lot of professionals who maybe have a deadline in the future and who are focused on meeting that deadline to the best extent that they possibly can, and who may sometimes make sacrifices to their wellness along the way. Maybe you miss a workout, or maybe your diet suffers a little bit as
you're not cooking, you're getting fast food maybe, or you don't have the time to spend with your loved ones that you normally do.
But the National Ballet of Canada recognized that. And so they worked with the organization's official health and wellness provider, who happens to be
Medcan.
And they created a dancer wellness program.
The program is particularly notable because it considers the dancers like holistic wellness. So mind and body and everything, not just like one particular ailment that they're dealing with.
I bet there are aspects of that wellness and about how the dancers care for their wellness that would resonate for other professionals.
Any high performing executives, like it doesn't matter if you're sitting at a desk or dancing on a stage, you know what it's like to hustle.
I'm Chris.
I'm Jazz. We're the producers of Eat, Move, Think.
And on the show today, we have Bronwyn Evans. She's the Chief Growth Officer of Medcan, and she's also a former board member of the National Ballet of Canada.
She's talking with the director of the Dancer Wellness Program at the National Ballet, Marla Pichler, as well as two of the company's soloists, Spencer Hack and Hannah Galway.
And as director of the Dancer Wellness Program, Marla Pichler oversees and coordinates the complementary health services for the National Ballet of Canada's dancers. She was a designated physiotherapist for 2 Olympic Games and for the Canadian tour of Stars on Ice for several years. Whether you're interested in the ballet or just a professional looking for tips on how to maintain your wellness through an intense period of work, this is an episode for you.
Let's get to it. Here is Bronwyn Evans.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to Eat, Move, Think. I'm Medcan's Chief Growth Officer, Bronwyn Evans. So Marla, really great to see you today. We've known each other for quite a long time. I was a past board member of the National Ballet. Great to see you. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. And it's great to see you too. And I think of you often because you were instrumental in the partnership with Medcan and the beginning of that and supporting the health and wellness program, the very beginning of it. So I do think of you.
Well, thank you. And I know you've been preparing for the start of the 2022 season, and you're kicking off with the collective agreement next month, which is a newly acquired production for the ballet. And then quickly after that, you're performing Mad Adam, which is based on Margaret Atwood's trilogy. So Marla, why don't you start by telling us a little bit about the work you do with the National Ballet and what the wellness program at the ballet is all about?
So the program started in 2011, and it was born from the long-standing dream of Karen Kane. She always wanted to put dancer health and wellness as a priority in her mandate when she was the artistic director of the company. At the time, it was really proactive and it was really forward-thinking, and it did put the National Ballet at the forefront of dancer health. We chose an integrated model which encompassed both physical and mental well-being of our dancers, and we wanted to treat the dancer as a whole individual as opposed to in a silo method where we were just treating the systems of the body. We recognized that a lot of our dancers were living away from home for the first time in their lives, and they were navigating very demanding careers. We wanted to provide a team of medical and sport-specific practitioners on site. And now we have quite a large team of athletic and physiotherapists, massage therapists, Pilates strength and conditioning coaches, sports medicine and orthopedic physicians, psychologists, psychiatrists, and dance mentors. They all come to us here at the Carson Center. And then we have a whole host of other practitioners who are consultants to our dancers if they need other care.
That's great. That's fantastic. Employee wellness is one of those areas that's become very topical, especially since the pandemic. So your typical company probably wouldn't have chiropractors, physiotherapists, that sort of thing. But are there aspects of your wellness program that you think that corporate Canada should consider embracing in their own corporate teams?
Well, it's an interesting question because I've been approached by some companies actually who want to set up a model similar to what we have here at the ballet, of course, on a much smaller scale. Their motive being that they don't want their dancers, they don't want their staff to be leaving a company to go for physiotherapy appointments or massage therapy appointments. And we do know that when people have their health and wellness in check, they are much more productive in the workplace. So yes, the model could be used in corporate worlds, bringing on site, some of the basic things that help people feel better and perform their daily practice. I think is a good thing.
Yeah, that's great. And it's wonderful to hear that you're having some of those conversations with corporate Canada. So Spencer and Hannah, can you give us an idea of what your day-to-day looks like right now and what you're currently rehearsing for this fall? Spencer, maybe we'll start with you.
Yeah. So right now we are rehearsing for our fall season coming up. And when we're in our rehearsal schedule, our day starts at 9:30 with a ballet class that lasts for an hour and 15 minutes. And that's really our time at the beginning of the day to warm up our bodies and prepare ourselves for the rehearsals ahead. We'll start rehearsal at 11 and that goes until 6 o'clock at night. And we have an hour in the middle of the day for a lunch break.
That's great.
And sometimes you have a full 6-hour day of rehearsal. Sometimes you only have an hour or two. And so that's a good opportunity to take advantage of our physiotherapists and our athletic therapists here to help us, recover and get ready for the next day.
Right. Yeah. And how long have you been back on site now? It's been a while, a couple of years?
We were kind of on and off throughout 2020.
Okay.
And 2021.
Yeah.
And then in the fall of 2021 is when we came back more permanently on site.
Okay. And so, Marla, how does the wellness program fit into the dancers' routine? What sort of guidelines have you put in place to make sure that they get the care, the rest, and they need? It sounds like their days are pretty full and demanding. So how do you make sure that they take the right amount of time at the appropriate time for self-care?
It's a challenge. I'm not sure we have it 100% right yet. Their days are very long, very demanding. And even if they're not actually physically rehearsing, most often they're in the studio watching and learning. So I guess the best thing that we could do was to bring as much as we could on site so they didn't have any travel time.
Yeah.
They didn't have to leave the premise to get the help they need. We have an online booking system, and so they can look to see if there is an appointment when they're in a studio and let's say all of a sudden they're not needed. They can look quickly, is there a massage appointment available for me? And they can book that right away. And for more serious things, I'm available by phone or by email all the time. You can't say that things crop up only between the hours of 9 to 5. It's usually on a Saturday at 7.
Right.
I'm preparing a big family dinner and the phone will ring and it will be one of my favored dancers with the problem. So you just never know when help is going to be needed. And so the person who's in my position has to be available for those calls.
Yes.
And then just guiding them through. And often it's just a matter of talking it through and helping them find the right avenue to get the help that they need when they need it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's a lot of work for you too. And it sounds like it goes into your personal time as well. So how do you make sure that you keep yourself well so that you can support the team?
When you say it's a lot of work, I mean, sometimes it's not a lot of work. Sometimes it's pretty quiet and everybody is happy. And then sometimes It's just too much. So I think it's just one of those jobs. I love it. What I think that I'm good at is navigating a system for people and trying to find the answer to the problems that are coming up, whether they're physical problems or mental health problems, and just making sure that everybody feels that they are being taken care of. Because as soon as someone knows that they are being taken care of, generally the heightened response drops down a notch and everybody can take a big breath.
Yeah, that whole healthcare navigation piece is something that's extremely important. I mean, we all hear stories about people who have challenges getting the care that they need, knowing where to go to access it. So it sounds like something where your role and the role that you play in that respect is a really good return on investment for the company, I would think.
I hope so.
Yeah.
And I have to say that our partnership with Medcan has been huge because we've been able to access virtually practitioners that know about the day-to-day medical issues, sore throats, headaches, rashes, infections, things that happen to people on a daily basis happen also to our dancers.
Yes.
And then they can access very easily through your everyday care.
That's great to hear. I'm glad to hear that. So Hannah, last season, the 2021-2022 season was a season of special significance. It marked your 70th anniversary as a dance company. And it was the last season programmed by then artistic director Karen Kane. So a very emotional season, I'm sure too. I have no doubt that the entire company felt pressure to deliver a remarkable season, and you absolutely did. I had the pleasure of seeing many ballets, and it was just so wonderful to be back in the theater. Hannah, what advice would you give other performers, whether in the arts or in the business world, about how to perform at your best amid uncertainty and in less than ideal training conditions?
That's a good question. I think a lot of it for me over the last couple of years was practicing gratitude when we did get the moments to be on stage or be in the studio with each other. Just recognizing that there are like moments of levity, like helps keep me going when we weren't in the studio or we were at home during COVID. With regards to it being the last season with our director, Karen Kane, it's just emotional.
Yeah,
she was here when I joined the company. I know she was director when Spencer joined the company. So to no longer be under her direction is it's sad and disappointing. But looking forward, we have Hope Muir now, our new artistic director. And again, it's like something to look forward to. It'll be different, but I know it'll be just as great. So I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah. Practicing gratitude. It's something I think that we all need to think about doing more, and just taking those moments where things are going well, or those people around us who support us to really think about that and to help lift our mood. So Spencer, over the past 2.5 years, we've all suffered from our share of Zoom fatigue. Can't even imagine dancing by Zoom, although my daughter did it.
Yeah.
She's a dancer, and not in a serious way like you are, but saw her do it in pointe shoes on her carpeted floor. But many employees and employers are choosing to maintain a hybrid or fully remote work environment, arguing that there are some benefits, such as better work-life balance, increased productivity for work that requires a lot of concentration. But dance is really an art form that involves extensive physical and emotional connection. How hard was it to maintain your passion while you trained remotely? And is there any aspect of remote work when it comes to dance that you would like to see brought into the new normal?
Yeah, it was incredibly hard to shift to trying to do as much work as I could at home. As you said, so much of dance happens with people, and we need specific spaces to do it. We need a studio, we need a space big enough to do it. And for many of us, that wasn't our home situation. So we were trying to fit in a class in our tiny kitchen or our living room, and you would avoid the TV and try to just make the best use of the space that you could. And it was hard. It was really hard. And for me, I had to take a bit of a break at first and just come to terms with the situation and just leave it for a little bit. After a certain point, I was like, okay, maybe I can start doing my at-home version of this. And slowly I would do a daily class and a few exercises. But again, there wasn't a lot that I could do. So to be back in our studios is just so wonderful. And as Hannah said, now that we're here, I try to remember to be grateful for that and to appreciate the wonderful facilities that we have and appreciate the fact that I get to do it with people I care about every day. So yeah, it was a really, really challenging time, as it was for everyone. It was so hard adjusting our work practice.
Yeah, I can only imagine. I mean, yeah, we think about our employees who might have been in bachelor apartments or bachelor condos, but sitting at a desk, never mind trying to dance, and that just seems to me to be next to impossible.
One of the joys of our work is getting to do it with people that we really care about. And there's so much inspiration that feeds off of each other. And, seeing your colleagues in class, in rehearsal is wonderful, and you learn so much. And so to not have that as you were trying to maintain this work practice, that was one aspect that was especially challenging for me, to feel like I was alone in it.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see in the corporate world how that all shapes up and comes back, or whether it does. Yeah. So Marla, has the pandemic triggered any lasting changes on how the wellness program operates? Any lessons that you learned that will continue for the longer term?
I think the pandemic has taught us a lot of things, and it's opened my eyes to maybe what drives dancers and what drives the National Ballet of Canada. Spencer and Hannah both mentioned that they love what they do and they love dancing with their friends. And the pandemic showed us that you take that away from them, and it's not like taking somebody's desk job and putting it in their living room. You've actually taken a piece of their essence away from them. And although they could do ballet class as they did each morning in their living room or in their kitchen or in their bathroom or wherever they were, they didn't have each other. They couldn't partner. There weren't two of them. There was one of them. It's not only what they love to do, but it's also who they are and who they identify themselves as. So the hit, I think, was substantial to the dancers in our company. What did we learn? Well, we learned about the essence of what goes on within a dancer. We were able to get our practitioners online, and we started doing a workshop series where we got groups of dancers together and tried to have them talk to one another. And inevitably, at the end of it, when we decompressed, it was always, well, it was so nice to see everybody. It's so nice to see everybody without a mask. But you felt the sadness. Yeah. You really did feel the sadness.
Yeah. Yeah. So Spencer and Hannah, how do you think a busy organization should care for its high performers? What would you say are the most important aspects it should focus on?
For dancers, for us, I think health and wellness is the number one. We are so fortunate to have the program that we have, because what we do is so hard, and dance medicine and sports medicine has improved significantly in the past decade. And so to have access to those resources is crucial for us to perform at the level that we need to.
What about you, Hannah? What do you think? What can other organizations learn from the ballet in terms of how to take care of high performers?
Yeah, I'd say what we got going on here is pretty good.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think we're really lucky and really fortunate, and it allows us to do what we do and continue what we're doing. So I don't know. That's kind of all I got to say about it. I love it here. It's great.
Yeah, and I feel like there's an investment to helping us become more knowledgeable so that we can become better at articulating what we need. So it's a back and forth and a dialogue about what's working, what we think, we need more of.
Right.
And that's really helpful too, to be able to have those conversations.
Yeah. So not just a top-down approach, but a conversation about it. Yeah. And I saw a study recently that was interesting where employers were talking about all of the different sort of wellness services that they offered their employees, which didn't exactly match up with what employees were necessarily looking for, right?
Yeah.
So I think having that conversation is probably key to a healthy culture and to people feeling like they're heard and that it's genuine and authentic in terms of what the organization is doing to support the health and well-being of the people.
The program is very much a partnership between the practitioners and the dancers. And I mean, we have regular check-ins with the dancers. And so we have to evolve. And so it takes flexibility. And the fact that we're all in this together is super important.
Yes. In our case, like working with bodies, everybody's different. So yeah, I think it feels very individual when we do get moments to work with our physiotherapist. And one thing I appreciate is how Spencer was saying that it's a conversation. This conversation always feels like we're working to also sort of prevent the really big injuries and stuff like that. Like there's a lot of emphasis on keeping us healthy. I mean, big things do happen because of the way we push our bodies, but they do a good job of making sure that that happens.
We try.
Yeah.
We try.
Yeah. Well, in the article that I read in advance, there was an article that was talking about how you encouraged people to come back slowly at the beginning, right? So that you didn't end up with major injuries after.
That was so important. I mean, we had an entire company coming back. It wasn't just 2 or 3 dancers who were coming back from injury that we could, handhold and take them through the stages. We had the entire company coming back. We had our physiotherapist was actually going into ballet class doing return to jump protocol with everybody. Like it wasn't just a few dancers because it was necessary for everybody.
And of course, we're a clinic where the majority of our staff were on site throughout the pandemic. But with the rest who weren't, as they were coming back, it was a realization that everyone's going to have their own personal journey back to the office, right? And, whether there's physical aspects involved, mental aspects, but it's really paying attention to that makes a big difference in terms of people's return to office, return to the dance studio. So Marla, ballet companies and ballet in general has been criticized for promoting negative body image and unattainable beauty standards. How do you work to ensure that this culture doesn't permeate the National Ballet of Canada?
So it's a very, very difficult situation because our dancers come to us after having many years of training with some very good coaches and also some very bad coaches. And so that goes into their own self-esteem and how they perceive their bodies are. It's something that we talk about amongst the staff quite a bit. With the coaches, we discuss it and we try to promote a very positive atmosphere. It starts from the top. And Hope has been really, really great with trying to create a healthy environment for all the dancers. So she wants to try and improve her message. She wants to improve the communication to the dancers. And she inspires us as people that work underneath her to follow that and to have an open dialogue that will help promote a more positive self-image. She really, really wants the dancers to thrive, not only within the company, obviously, but also in their personal lives. And if a negative self-image is haunting someone, it's very difficult to be successful. It's a struggle because they are out there, they're exposed, they're on a stage for everybody to look at. There are lots of times wearing costumes that don't allow anything to be hidden the way the rest of the population can hide behind a big sweater. Dancers also know that when they are at their absolute fittest, they can perform their absolute best. And so it's always trying to maintain that absolute fitness that is such a struggle. And even when you attain the fitness, it's very difficult to maintain it, for a long period of time. So there's going to be ups and downs.
Yeah.
So it is a situation, and it's something that we're very aware of.
Yeah, it certainly sounds like something that you're addressing head on here. Yeah.
We're trying.
I'll speak to my experience. I'll volunteer to be vulnerable, but body image is something like I've struggled with even before ballet. This is something that, regardless of what is being set at the top, even if there is messaging of healthiness and well-being and being fit and strong mentally, emotionally, physically, like it is something I think I will continue to have to work on because, yeah, it's just there. It's like insidious. It's just something that I constantly have to negotiate with when I'm in a studio looking at myself in a mirror in a leotard. It's not even always based on how I look. It's like how it feels.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes I might be at my absolute fittest. We could have a really hard program, but if mentally I'm not and emotionally I'm not strong and I'm not healthy and I'm not fit there, then it's sort of like irrelevant how it's manifesting in my body at that time. It seems like such a big thing for me, at least. Yeah.
Yeah. Just always there.
Yeah.
Constant struggle. You know, it's interesting what you say about looking yourself on a daily basis in a mirror in a leotard. Like I can tell you when we first went to virtual meetings, seeing your face when you're having meetings, you're so self-conscious. It was hard to focus sometimes on the meetings.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, you're thinking about your background. You're thinking about, oh, do I look pale? Oh, is that some gray I see in my hair? So you've really sort of put that into perspective, right? I mean, we weren't standing there in leotards mirrors, but yeah, I can imagine it's just there in front of you all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
But awareness is the first stage, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I mean, you can go to as many mental health practitioners as you want, and if you're unaware of
Mm-hmm.
yourself, the door will never open
Yeah.
for you to be able to walk through that.
Yeah.
And for you to recognize that it's a struggle that you have on a constant basis is brave.
It is. Yeah, it takes courage to say that. It absolutely does. Yeah. We love to give our listeners actionable advice that they can use. If you could each leave us with one piece of advice when it comes to coping through hustle culture or through busy, stressful times, what would you say? Spencer, let's start with you.
I think the thing that works best for me is just listening to my body. I think when I was a younger dancer, I would try and get ahead of stress by coming up with this plan and this schedule. I'm going to go to bed at this time. I'm going to eat this. You know, I'm going to do all these things and I'm going to feel great. And I realized that that didn't work for me.
Mm-hmm.
And trying to follow this schedule kind of became like another job. So I've learned that, especially when I'm my busiest, it's really important to listen to what I feel like I need and go with that. And if I need to sleep in 10 more minutes, then I need to sleep in. Yeah, if I need to not go out because I'm feeling tired, then that's what I need to do. But I think just really listening to what I feel like I need in the moment is the most helpful thing for me.
Yeah, being present with that and paying attention to it.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. Hannah, what would you say? What piece of advice would you give our listeners?
I feel like my experience is like pretty similar to Spencer in that I thought by creating a very sort of regimented, like restrictive, very to the minute kind of thing, like in the morning and going to bed. And it turned out that I wasn't really listening to what I really wanted. Mm-hmm. Even if that's something like staying up later than 10 o'clock. You know, in my head, that sounds scary because I'm like, I know that I have to push myself tomorrow. I know that I have a 6-hour day. But if I really am craving, I don't know, a conversation with my mother or reading my book a little longer, or even watching a mindless TV show, like I want to give myself the freedom and like compassion to do that and know that I trust myself. I will be okay tomorrow and do my 6-hour day. And not every day is going to be perfect either. So I have to be a little bit more sensitive with myself when perhaps a day isn't going great. I like give myself grace to be like, okay, you know what? It's just one day. Tomorrow will be better, or, you know, so on. So
So it's that whole self-compassion piece. And it is interesting. Sometimes those voices in our head say things to us that we would never say to a friend, right?
Yeah.
When you're trying to, and it's sort of to think of yourself as you would speak to a friend and to give yourself permission. And that's a great piece of advice. Marla, how about you? Is there something that has worked for you throughout the pandemic and beyond in terms of dealing with the hustle and bustle and has kept you focused and feeling top of your game? Or
Probably taking a step back and taking a deep breath, taking a look at what is going on, how it's going on, and reevaluating the situation. So I think it always helps just to stop, take a breath, and then move forward. I mean, the other piece of advice that helped me a lot was regular exercise.
Yeah.
Not getting into that black hole where I wasn't doing exercise. For these guys, it's normal for you to exercise, but for the average individual, sometimes we do put that second. And for me, not necessarily hard and not necessarily heavy lifting or anything like that. It was just a good, solid amount of exercise each and every day. Getting outside.
Yeah, that is really important. And I would say, I'm much better at making it to the gym and getting out when I go to the office rather than when I'm working from home on those days. I just don't seem to leave my desk. And it's funny because you'd think that's when you'd have more flexibility, but it seems the more structure I have, the better I am at getting out and exercising, which is really good for your mental health. I agree. This has been such an interesting and I would say very productive discussion. Thank you all for joining me and sharing your experience with our listeners. I've learned a lot, and I hope that our listeners have encountered insights that perhaps they can bring to their own organizations. Stay well, everyone, and good luck with your upcoming season.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
That was Bronwyn Evans, Medcan's Chief Growth Officer, in conversation with National Ballet of Canada's Director of Dancer Wellness, Marla Pichler, first soloist Spencer Hack, and second soloist Hannah Galway, who will both be performing at the ballet's upcoming 2022-2023 season.
Follow the National Ballet of Canada on Twitter and Instagram at National Ballet, and follow Medcan at Medcan Live Well.
We'll post episode highlights and links you can visit on our website at eatmovethinkpodcast.com.
Say hello and send us a tip or a suggestion by emailing us at info@eatmovethinkpodcast.com.
Eat Move Think is produced by Ghost Bureau. Jasmine Ratch is managing producer. Social media and strategy support is from Chantal Gertan, Andrew Imax, and Emily Bozick. Executive producer is me, Christopher Shulgin.
We'll be back soon with a new episode examining the latest in health and wellness.
This podcast is intended to provide general information about health and wellness only and is not designed or intended to constitute or be used as a substitute for medical advice, treatment, or diagnosis. You should always talk to your Medcan healthcare provider for individual medical advice, diagnosis, and treatment, including your specific health and wellness needs. This podcast is based on the information available at the time of preparation and is only accurate and current as of that date. Source information and recommendations are subject to change based on scientific evidence as it evolves over time. Medcan is not responsible for future changes or updates to the information and recommendations and assumes no obligation to update based on future developments. Reference to or mention of specific treatments or therapies does not constitute or imply a recommendation or endorsement. The links provided within the associated document are to assist the reader with the specific information highlighted. Any third-party links are not endorsed by Medcan.